Good day. So, tapos na tayo sa lesson 1 natin sa Organization and Management. So, proceed na tayo sa lesson 2 or week 2 na may pinamagatan natin the firm and its environment. Now, for this lesson, we have three objectives. Identify the various forces or elements of the firm's environments. Summarize these forces using the PEST and the SWOT analysis. And the third one is explain the role of the business in relation to the economy. So, nakaraan sa ating lesson is yung nature and concept. We basically tackles what is management or how the management works and the firms or the industry. So, in this case, alamin naman natin kung ano yung tinatawag nating environmental forces. So, ang tanong, what is environmental forces? In this definition, the environment forces is the environment in which a business operates in major consideration in determining an organization design or structure. Considerations such as uncertainty, procurement, and competitions are linked with the external environment. A company's strategy and approach to operations must also be aligned with the limitation of its external environment. So basically, ano ba siya sa ating environmental forces? Environmental forces are basically factors that affects the business or the industry outside of the workplace or the industry itself. So ano-ano ba 'yun? Bakit may tinatawag tayong environmental forces? Environmental forces dahil nga kas hindi makakapag-operate ang isang business o isang industry kung hindi natin aalamin kung ano yung kinatatuyuan natin. Basically, ano yung mga challenges, ano yung mga needs and wants ng environment natin, and also ano yung mga limitation na meron sa ating environment kung saan kinatitirikan or kung saan nakalocate ang ating business. So basically, it is not just the geography itself or where the industry or the company stands. Basically, it can be also in terms of politics, groups, and competitions. So those are what we call environmental forces. So, ano ba yung different components of the external business environment, which is the general and the specific. So, pag sa ating external business environment, this is basically outside the business or the industry itself. So basically, these are the different factors or components that affects on how the business or the industry functions and also operates. So what are those? The first one is the social cultural situations. It includes the customer's changing values and preferences rather. Customs could also affect management practices in companies. So basically, class, hindi ka naman po pwede pupunta sa isang lugar or magtatayo ng isang business sa isang lugar kung hindi mo aalamin kung ano yung kultura na merong isang lugar na yon. Hindi naman po pwedeng magtayo ka ng isang business, for example, na labag naman sa culture na meron sila. For example, sa Mindanao, basically sa Mindanao is most of them are in the Muslim groups or yung religion nila is Muslim. Kung sa isang purok or isang bloke, for example, isang barangay is nagtayo ka ng business na mostly are Muslims na nakatira, medyo conflicting kung magtatayo ka ng isang simbahan or sabihin natin isang uh, gift shops or gift shop kung saan nagbebenta ka ng mga Catholic related items, even though alam mo sa sarili mo ng kinatatuyuan or yung geography na meron ng iyong demography and geography na merong ang iyong business is mostly is Muslim, alam mo sa sarili mo na hindi siya magiging mabenta. So ikaw bilang isang businessman or isang manager or just an individual itself na gusto mo magtayo ng isang company, alam mo of course kung ano yung culture na meron ng iyong uh, workplace, nasa paligid ng iyong workplace. Alamin mo kung ano yung culture nila para hindi maging conflicting. The second one is the politico-legal situations. It refers to national or local laws, international laws, and rules and regulation that influence organizational management. So sir, bakit nga ba may ganun? Bakit kailangan mo is alamin muna yung mga national and local laws bago ka magtayo ng isang business? So basically class, gaya kanina 'di ba sa social cultural, aalamin mo yung culture na merong isang uh, isang area bago ka magtayo ng isang business. Yun din of course in terms of what we call politics. Di naman po pwede magtayo ka ng isang business na alam mo sa sarili mo na illegal. For example, in America. In America is legalized na yung pagbebenta drug ng drug na kung tawagin is marijuana. Sa Amerika, may benta mo siya ng legal. Now, kung ikaw is ita-transfer mo siya or gusto mo is mag-branch out or mag-expand, in-expand mo yung company mo sa Pilipinas, which is what we all know na illegal naman ang pagbebenta ng marijuana sa Pilipinas, magkakaroon ng conflicting. Magkakaroon ng conflict in terms of local government and also the national government ng Pilipinas. So pwede mangyari is makulong ka or maharap ka sa iba't ibang kaso na related sa illegal drugs. So ano pa? Ano pang another example? In America, sa Amerika is pinagbabawal din yung pagbebenta ng kangkong naman. Sa Pilipinas, di ba, alam natin ang kangkong is isa sa mga common na kinakain ng Pilipino, not just in the Philippines but also in Southeast Asia. Most of the Southeast Asian countries is nagbebenta ng kangkong. Dahil nga raw is sobrang abundant ng sobrang abundant ng stocks and also sobrang accessible niya sa lahat ng tao dahil nga kahit mahirap ka, kahit sabihin natin na kinakapos ka sa buhay, is nakakabili ka ng kangkong. Pero kung pupunta ka sa Amerika, illegal yung pagbenta at pagbili ng kangkong. Dahil nga raw is nakakasira ng crops, masyado raw mabilis ang pagtubo na pwedeng maapektuhan yung iba nilang mga plants. So that is the political. So basically, you need to know first what are the different laws that may affect your company or your industry. The third one is ito yung pinaka-importante, demographic situation. When we say demographic situation, it is basically such as gender, age, educational level, income, number of family members, geographic origin, etc. May also influence some managerial decisions in organizations. So, pag sa ating demography, which is lagi natin to na-encounter sa paggawa ng research, especially ngayon sa senior high school, which is the practical research 1 and 2. Doon natatakan natin yung demography. Sa paggawa ng research paper, inaalam natin kung ano yung target population na gusto nating maging subject. In this case, sa business, ganun din man. Alamin mo yung target population mo na gusto mong maging customer, maging stakeholder or consumer ng iyong business. Hindi mo pwede na magbebenta ka ng isang item na mostly is alam mo sa sarili mo is yung mga ages 30 to 40 years old lang yung nag-e-enjoy, tapos ibebenta mo siya sa mga ages 11 to 15 years old. So hindi naman pwede yun dahil hindi siya magiging mabenta. So ikaw bilang isang manager, you need to know first what are the demography of your area and the capability on what item your company can produce. So know first your consumer or your customer. The fourth one is the world and ecological situations are related to the increasing number of global competitors and markets, as well as the nature and conditions of the changing natural environment. So yung nakarang topic natin, which is the natural and concept, nabanggit natin yun, yung evolution of management. So, through the course of time, nagbabago yung management style. Same goes with the number of competitions o number of competition on, in this case, yung competitors natin is yung different firms. For example, in the world of smartphones. In the world of smartphones, una dyan is dati, ang sumisibo dyan is yung Nokia, BlackBerry, and Sony Ericsson. So, by year and by year, is merong ibang companies na nagsusulputan. Nandiyan yung Apple, and also Samsung, Apple, Xiaomi, and Huawei. So, pag nagbabago yung tawag dito, environment natin or yung tawag dito, market natin, of course, kailangan mo is maging practical ka. Kaya mo maging practical ka, you need to think different approach, and also different ways on how you sell your product or your item dahil nga nagbabago yung conditions. Sabi nga dito, as well as the nature and conditions of the changing natural environment. So, kung nagbabago yung environment natin, nagbabago yung market, kailangan mo isumabay sa pagbabago. Now, the fifth one is the stakeholders, or parties likely to be affected by the activities of the organization, while customers are those who patronize the organization's products and services. So, napakadali na nga natin ng meaning niya. Stakeholders, sila yung mga tawag dito, involved on producing the product or producing the services. So, hindi naman siya basically kung sino lang yung nag-invest. Ayun yung laman ng company. Pati ang mga tawag dito, consumers and customers is considered as stakeholders. So example natin is yung sa schools. Sa schools is hindi lang naman yung mga principals, and also mga supervisors. Hindi na naman siya basically sila lang yung stakeholders. Pati yung mga students and of course yung barangay, LGUs, parents are considered also as stakeholders. So basically, all of us are stakeholders in terms of the businesses and industry. Anyone that can affect the business, the flow of the business, the sales of the business, is considered as stakeholders. Okay, sixth one, suppliers are those who ensures the organization continuous flow of needed and reasonably priced inputs of materials required for producing their goods and rendering their services. So suppliers, hindi naman pwede na kung ikaw is investor, ikaw na mismo magiging supplier. Sobrang laki naman ang kailangan mong ipakawalang pera and also service para mapatakbo ang isang business. So ikaw businessman, maghahanap ka rin of course ng suppliers. Suppliers na kaya mag-supply that can make the operation continue. So kung ikaw businessman, you need to of course to have a contingency plan. Pag nagbabago kasi yung supply, when we say yung suppliers, sabihin natin, okay sir, ito lang po yung kaya namin i-produce for today para i-produce ang materials, raw materials, para makapaggawa ka ng good mo or service or yung item mo. Kailangan mo magkaroon ng contingency plan. So, kung ano yung bibigyan ng supplier, kailangan mo, you can maximize that. Hindi naman pag sinabi na, sir, ito lang yung item ko, ito lang yung raw materials na may bibigay ko sa iyo, which is yung supplier. Yung mga supplier, sabihin ito lang yung material, ito yung tawag dito, raw material na kayang i-produce, is ikaw bilang businessman, tutunganga ka na. Kailangan mo is meron kang contingency plan on how to maximize what the suppliers produce or gives or sell. Okay, the seventh one is the pressure groups or what we call peer groups or special interest group that try to exert influence on our organization decisions or actions. So kung tayo sa mga individuals, may tinatawag tayong mga peer groups. Same goes with the business and industry. May silang of course mga peer groups. So ano yung ba yung mga peer groups na yun, sir? It can be the heads, the board of regents, and other investors that can affect the decisions of an organization. Now, eighth one, which is yung pinaka-alam natin, which is yung employees are comprised of those who work for another or for an employer in exchange of salaries, wages, or other considerations. Employees execute the company's strategies and are important for the maintenance of the company's stability. So basically, class, employees or lakas paggawa. Sila yung mga manggagawa natin. Kung ang manggagawa natin, hindi natin sila na tawag dito, hindi natin sila napoprotektahan, hindi na sila napapasahod ng mabuti, of course, magbabago rin yung productivity. So ikaw bilang isang businessman, isang sabihin natin is isang manager, you need to take care of your employees in order for them to be productive and to produce quality products and service. So those are the 8 components of the external business environment, general and specific. Now, components of the internal business environment. Kung kanina is external, ngayon naman yung internal, panloob. An organization's internal business environment is composed of its resources, research and development, production, procurement of supplies, and the products and services it offers. The organization internal environment must also be subjected to internal analysis, internal strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats with regards to its resources can be financial, physical, mechanical, technological, and human resources, research and development endeavors, productions of goods, procurement of supplies, materials, inputs, and finance, and products and services must all be considered prior to the organizational planning. So basically, when we say components of the internal business environment, this is are the different factors that evolves or helps the company function. Ayun, sabi nga dito, can be the research, production, development, anything that helps or involves on how the business functions or flow. Now, one of them is the environmental scanning. Environmental scanning is the process of gathering information about events and their relationships within an organization's internal and external environments. The basic purpose of environmental scanning is to help management to determine the future direction of the organization. So ito is classes walang kamatayan ng research. Kung ikaw ay magtatayo ng isang industry, isang company, you need to conduct research first. Hindi mo po pwede magtayo ka ng milk tea shop sa gitna ng disyerto. Alam mo naman natin pag nasa disyerto ka is kakaunti lang yung taong gusto niya kasi lagi siyang mainit. So, ikaw bilang businessman, isang or businesswoman or isang manager, you need first to scrutinize or scan your environment or what we call research. You need to conduct research first. If yung gusto mong business is magmamaterialize pa siya o yung isang business is sa tingin mo is magbo-boom sa kinatatuyuan niya or sa area na yun. Next is the local and international business environment of the firm. Understanding the local international businesses environment of the firm requires managers or organizations to sharpen their cultural intelligence. And this will enable them to develop their ability to accept and adapt to different cultures, both local and international, that may affect the organization to which they belong. So basically, class, it is more of a globalization. Globalization and localization. When we say globalization and localization, you are understanding how the different areas, different, which is in this case globalization, different companies, different countries, understanding how their business works or flows. It is much more, it is when we say it is what we call benchmarking. Aalamin mo kung paano tumatakbo ang business sa gantong bansa, sa gantong area. So, it enables you to gain knowledge that can be used on how you run or how you takbuhin nga, how you run, paano mo siya patakbuhin yung business sa area na gusto mong tayuan or pagtayuan ng business. It is basically you're gaining knowledge from different areas, understanding how business works in terms of local and international environment. So, the local and international business environment of the firm. So, meron siya dito, lima. The first one is the power distance. The degree to which a society accepts or rejects the unequal distribution of power among people in organization and institution of society. So basically, on how distribution of power. Kailangan kasi ang mga tao gusto niya is yung equal distribution of power lagi. Dahil kung sa tingin nila is nalalamangan yung gantong area, nalalamangan yung gantong organization, ng gantong group, of course, alam mo sa sarili mo na pwede siyang makaapekto sa pagpapatakbo ng business mo. So, this is basically equal distribution of power. Next is the uncertainty avoidance, the degree to which society is uncomfortable with risk, change, and situational uncertainty. So, tawag dito, sa areas, different areas, including, if we say local, for example, sa Pilipinas, ang tao is hindi naman siya basically magpapatakbo ng isang business kung alam sa sarili niya is wala siyang kasiguruduhan. There's no assurance on Magbubomba yung business na meron siya kung yung risk na iti-take niya is worth it or yung change. So, ito is nakakaapekto siya, of course, sa decision making ng isang manager, ng isang businessman, and also different stakeholders, which is the uncertainty avoidance. The third one is individualism and collectivism, the degree to which a society emphasizes the individual accomplishments versus collective accomplishments. Man versus society. So, ayun, individual and collectivism. So, sabihin nila is yung achievement ng isang business, isang tao na to is more than enough for them to believe na kaya niya patakbuhin yung business to, magiging magbo-boom yung business na kina meron siya, or pwedeng baliktad naman, maging opposite. Yung achievement niya is not enough to to make the people believe na magiging patok yung business na yun. The fourth one is masculinity and femininity, the degree on to which a society values assertiveness and feelings of material success versus concern for relationship. So basically, masculinity and femininity, it is more on inequality in terms of gender and sexuality. Nakaka-apekto siya, of course, sa business. Not just in local, but also international. The last one is the time orientation, the degree to which a society emphasizes short-term thinking versus greater concern for the future of or long-term thinking. So may mga tao kasi may mga businesses, of course, there are firms na ang thinking nila is just for short term. Gusto nila this day, ito lang yung gusto nilang gusto nila ngayong araw lang yung gusto nilang isolve. Hindi nila ipinag-iisipan yung future. Gusto nila is more on short term. So ikaw bilang businessman, for you to become a successful businessman and manager, you need to think, of course, long term. Long term thinking. Isipin mo kung ngayong araw ba to is magiging successful ba tayo? Masolve ba tayong problem ito? Paano kaya yung the following day, the following month, the following years? At tingin mo is masasuccess mo siya? So, for you to become a successful and also effective manager and businessman, you need to think long term. So those are the five local and international business environment of the firm. Now, economic development. Economic development is the creation of wealth form which community benefits or realize. It is more than a jobs program. It's an investment in growing your economy, enhancing the prosperity and quality of life of all residents. So dito plus is tatakbo yung tanong na pag marami bang trabaho ng isang bansa is mayaman bang isang bansa? So yes, tama. Kung ang isang bansa is kaya mag-produce ng maraming trabaho, na kaya mag-cater sa uh, different individuals, marami ang tao, it can create also the economy to boom, lumago ang ekonomiya ng isang bansa. Nakadepende sa job opportunities, employment rate ng isang bansa kung ang economy nila is tataas o bababa. That is what we call economic development. For a country to have a successful economy, they need to first create jobs and gather investments, not just in local but in international, para mag-develop, mag-boom yung economy nila. Of course, kung nagbo-boom ang economy, mabababa yung mga nabababa yung pamasahe, bababa yung mga bilihin, and also walang maghihirap. So that is what we call economic development. Now, there are different phases of economic development. One of them is traditional society. In a traditional society, modern science and technology are either not available or are not being systematically applied. A large proportion of productive resources are devoted to agriculture, such as hunting, fishing, and gardening. This is low economic and social mobility, and changes are seen negatively. So basically, class, when we say traditional society, these are the different organization and age groups that rejects changes that rejects industrialization, rejects advancement of technology. Dahil isip nila, ito traditional, subukan natin to, alam natin kaya natin mabuhay dito, ba't pa natin tatanggapin yung pagbabago? So, yun. So, kung ganun, kung hindi natin tatanggapin yung pagbabago ng isang ekonomiya, pagbabago ng way on how to make the economy boom, it can be also hinders the economic development. So, mostly class, mga traditional society, these are can be seen in rural areas. Yung mga tawag dito, mas pinipiling palakasin muna yung agriculture, which is yung pagtatanim, hunting, fishing, and gardening, which is okay lang naman din siya. Pero, there are some cases na negative na siya. Nagiging negative na siya. So, that is what we call traditional society. The second one is individualism and collectivism. Kagaya kanina, man versus society, society versus man. This stage is of economic development is a result of the Industrial Revolution. There is now an external demand for raw materials which social, political, and economic changes. One, a change in society attitudes towards science, risk-taking, and profit earning, the ability of the labor force. Third is political sovereignty. Fourth is the development of a centralized tax system and financial institutions. And the fifth one is the construction of certain economic and social overheads like railroads and educational institutions. So basically, class, it is a result nga ng Industrial Revolution. Sa Industrial Revolution, ito yung tawag ito, nagkaroon ng digmaan. Not literally digmaan na patayan, but also digmaan on how the different countries evolves and develops. Digmaan ng masyang ano eh, limang Industrial Revolution. Five stages of Industrial Revolution, which is hindi ko na siya itatakal dito. So yon, that is what we call individualism and collectivism. Now, the third one, for the phases of economic development, is the takeoff. So this stage is characterized by dynamic economic development, the crucial stage which covers a relatively brief period of 2 or 3 decades in which the economy transforms itself in such a way that economic growth subsequently takes place more or less automatically. So basically class, ito yung biglang pag-grow, pag-boom ng isang economy ng isang bansa. So, paano yun, sir? Paano siya nakikita? So, ito yung biglang pag-institutionalize, industrialize ng isang economy ng isang bansa. It can be also in terms of the employees, labor, institutionalize o pag-create ng different laws enables that enables and also that protects the businesses and of course the labors itself. Kapag gano'n is nakapag-create sila ng job opportunities, and nakakapag-gain sila ng different investments and investors na which biglang tataas, makakaapekto at tataas yung isang economy ng isang bansa or what we call the take-off stage. The fourth one is the drive to maturity. In this stage, economic and technical progress dominates multiple industries expand and new industries or businesses takes root. Consumption increased, the rapid development of transportation infrastructure, of course, and large-scale investment in social infrastructure such as school, university, hotels, and hospital takes place. So basically, ito yung pagmamature. Sabi nga, drive to maturity. Pag inuuna muna yung pangangailangan ng isang bansa, which is the transportation, the goods and services, schools, hospitals, and of course different uh, primary needs ng isang bansa. So pag dito inuuna siya yung inuuna mo ng maibigay yung mga services na yon sa isang area, for example in this case which is isang country, is nakakapekto siya of course sa development ng economy. The fifth one or the last one is the age of consumption. Don't mind the title, class ay yung The Local International Business. So, typographical error, it is still the basis of development, economic development. So now back. The last one is the age of mass consumption. During this stage, the per capita real income increased to the level at which a large number of people can afford consumption, transcending the basic food, shelter, and clothing requirements. They have disposable income beyond all basic needs for additional goods. Meaning to say, most of the society live in prosperity and persons living in the society are offered both abundance and multiplicity of choices. So dito is nakakaapekto na yung demography ng isang bansa or isang area kung saan kinatatayuan ng isang ah, business. So kung ang demography mo nga, sabi ko nga kanina, is bata, kailangan is ibibenta mo yung mga pambatang goods and services yung offer mo. Of course, kung ganun, kung mag-offer ka ng ganun, kailangan nasusuportahan yung pagkakaroon ng pera ng demography na yun. Kung nagbabago, kung tumataas yung tawag ito, income ng isang tao, ng isang individual, of course, pagkataas yung income niya, magkakaroon siya mas maraming pera, magkakaroon siya mas maraming opportunity to buy and consume different goods and services that businesses offers, or what we call is age of mass consumption. So those are the five stages of economic development. Now, tatakan naman dito yung four types of business. The first one is a sole proprietorship. These businesses are owned by one person, usually the individual who has day-to-day responsibility for running the business. So, saan natin siya madalas nakikita, class? Nakikita natin siya usually sa mga sari-sari store. Those are what we call sole proprietorship. Yung mga taong sila mismo nag invest, sila mismo yung kumukuha ng, tawag dito, kumukuha ng income o kumikita, and also sila mismo yung nag-offer at nagbebenta ng goods na ginagawa nila. So what are the advantages? Owner receives all the profits. Profits are taxed only once. This is based on the tax bracket class. Third one is owner makes all decision as and is in complete control of the company, could also be a disadvantage. The fourth one is the easiest and the least expensive form of ownership to organize. So, kung may advantage, of course, may mga disadvantage. Unlimited liability if anything happens in the business. Your personal assets are at risk, including your homes. Unlimited in raising funds and may have to acquire consumer loans. And last is the no separate legal status. So, of course, medyo ano siya, tawag ito, accessible nga naman siya. Mas madaling gumawa ng business kung ikaw lang mag-isa. But also can be also a curse. Pwede siyang maging liability. Like kung ano yung meron ka, is pwede siyang subject for pagbenta para mapatakbo mo yung business mo. Kung wala kang investors or kung wala kang katulong, wala kang partnership, wala kang partner na kayang mag-invest or kayang mag-release ng principal amount, medyo mabigat nga naman talaga siya sa bulsa. Pero of course, kung kaya mo naman siyang i-materialize, kaya mo siya patakbuhin, lahat ng matatanggap, lahat ng marireceive ng profits, lahat ng marireceive ng profit ng business na yun, isa yun lang siya. So that is what we call sole proprietorship. Next one, kung mayroong isang pagnenegosyo or sole proprietorship, meron of course yung partnership. Two or more people share ownership of a single business. Like proprietorship, the law does not distinguish between the business and its owner. So partnerships, pwedeng dalawahan o marami yan. As long as meron siyang distribution of investments or shares. Medyo napapasok na siya yung shares na tinatawag natin. So ano yung advantages niya? Easy to establish with the exception of developing a partnership agreement, separate legal status to give liability protection, profits taxed only once, partners may have complementary skills. Of course, disadvantage. Partners are jointly individually liable for the actions of the other partners. Profits may be shared with the partners. Divided decision making. Business can suffer if the detailed partnership agreement is not in place. So yes, Advantage niya is hindi ka na mahihirapan mag-invest, hindi ka na mahihirapan mag-release ng principal amount or na capital. Hindi ka na mahihirapan sa ganun kung may partner ka. Pero syempre, curse din siya, disadvantage din siya dahil what if is ikaw mismo sa sarili mo is matinukang business owner. Pero yung kapartner mo sa business, yung co-business partner mo is hindi naman siya ganoon ka tawag dito, kagaling sa business. Somehow magiging liability na siya. Tapos mahati yung decision making nyo, pwedeng um, okay ka sa gantong decision, siya hindi. Ay kayo magbabanggaan. So, when we say partnership, two or more people. Yung liability, dito, responsibility and liability is depende kung sa gaano kalaking capital ang nire-release mo. The third one is corporation. A corporation is considered by law to be unique entity, separate from those who owns it. A corporation can be taxed, sued, and enter in the contractual agreements. The corporation has a life of its own and does not dissolve when ownership changes. So, advantage, limited liability. Transfer of ownership, shareholders can sell their shares. Capital is easier to raise through the sale of stock. Company paid fringe benefits and also tax benefits. Disadvantage, double taxation can be costly to form, more administrative duties required by law to have annual meetings, notify stockholders of the meeting, must keep minutes of meetings and turn in, pay corporate taxes at a different time that other business form of business. So corporation is ito yung malaki yan na. Maraming taong nagpapatakbo. Pinakamadaling example nito is yung C family. Yung may mga nagmamay-ari ng SM malls. That is what we call corporation. So basically, corporation are the organization or group of people that invest in one business or more than two businesses. Nag-invest sila doon to create a corporation. So pag corporation class, it is much more, di naman siya much more professional. Pero much inclined na siya, much dito, naapektuhan na siya ng law. Not literally naapektuhan ng law. Basically, yung tinakal natin kanina is naapektuhan na siya ng law, is covered pa rin siya ng law. Pero this time, incorporation is much deeper na siya. Mas mabigat na yung liabilities and responsibilities nila. Dahil tawag dito, nasasakop na sila ng different government agencies. Sabi nga dito, kailangan is nagpipay ka ng corporate taxes. Pag corporate taxes, of course, natin is malaki na siya. Now, kapag ang isang business, isang corporation is hindi siya nagpapay ng proper corporate taxes, tapos hindi siya basically sumusaway siya sa mga laws na covers the corporations, most likely kakasuhan siya not just ordinary people, average people, but the government kung saan siya nakatayo. Saan bansa siya nakatayo. So, yan. And the last one is the cooperation. Kung kanina corporation is basically group of people na nag-invest. Sa cooperation naman or mga co-op are democratically controlled by their member owners. And unlike traditional business, each member gets a voice in how the business is run. Services or goods provided by the co-op benefits and serve the member owners. So, usually class nakikita natin to sa mga palengke. Sa mga ng tindera natin. Tindera ng gulay, prutas, bigas, at marami pang iba. So lahat sila is nasa isang co-op or yung kooperatiba, gaya ng mga TODA, kooperatiba. So dito is meron silang equal distribution of power. Though, yes, meron silang kapangyarihan na mag-elect ng leader nila, pero lahat sila is may boses sa sa kooperatiba. Unlike sa korporasyon kanina, sa corporation, sa corporation is kung sino yung may pinakamalaking ambag, pinakamalaking investment or shares or ayan, shares, siya lang yung may pinaka malaki or mataas na power. Sa kooperatiba is lahat ng tao doon is may boses. At may isa silang vision na gusto makamit. So those are the different types of business. Kooperasyon, uh, kooperasyon or kooperatiba, corporations or korporasyon, partnerships or dalawahan na negosyo, at sole proprietorship, isang pagnenegosyo. So for your task in today's topic, kindly answer the quiz number 2 in Genomio and also comply the comply and answer the activity number 1 in Genomio. So thank you and good luck.